Senator Hagerty of Tennessee is recognized.
Chairman Brown, thank you. Ranking Member Toomey, I appreciate your holding this hearing. Before I get to questions, I'd just like to reflect the fact that I also serve on the Foreign Relations Committee with Senator Menendez, and I share the concerns that he raised in terms of illicit activity, and I very much appreciate the ongoing work, and you're keeping us posted as to how you address that. At the same time that many of us are concerned about illicit activity, though, we see great promise in this industry. And some of the comments that you mentioned have raised some concerns with me. Your interchange with Senator Rounds, for example, talking about how the President's Working Group report has interpreted integrating states' rights and states' regulatory authorities in the grand scheme of things. I've approved of the innovation that occurs at a state level, and I'd be very interested in your view on how you would intend to incorporate state perspectives, or is this going to be a heavy-handed, one-size-fits-all approach?
So I think the recommendations of the PWG report are building on the state frameworks that currently exist. The first recommendation that stablecoin issuers be an IDI, an insured depository institution, given the flexibility within that framework, is still that the IDI can be a state or federal charter. Mm-hmm. Second, it is building on the state money transmitter licenses. Was not a recommendation to replace. I do think some of the state money transmitter licenses requirements probably need to be updated for digital assets, for example, and they were not designed for the kind of new emerging modern payment system. But it would, the recommendation is that you be able to require some higher risk management standards, but not to replace the existing framework.
I appreciate your desire not to replace it. I hail from Tennessee. We have a wonderful state system there, and I think one that's agile and capable of incorporating recommendations, but at the same time solving in an agile way for new innovation. So I encourage that you continue to incorporate the state's perspective. I'd also like to touch on another notion that you discussed with Senator Menendez regarding the risk of runs on a given stablecoin. And here, just on a theoretical level, would a fully reserved stablecoin pose a substantial risk of experiencing a run, or would that risk be higher or lower than, say, a fractional reserve bank? The risk of a run on a fractional reserve bank.
The fractional reserve bank is backed by either deposit insurance or lender of last resort discount window facilities that can, with regulation of the assets and the fractional reserve, can prevent runs. Fully reserved, for example, a money market fund, fully reserved 100% high quality assets have limited reserve run, but for payment. So the difference between stablecoin and, say, a money market fund is that a money market fund, in my view, is purchased for the purpose of earning yield. You purchase a stablecoin to be able to use it as a payment mechanism. So they're slightly different. So I think the redemption features will distinguish, a stablecoin from, say, a money market fund, a government money market fund.
I think as we look at this, we should be just particularly careful to accommodate the great potential that this shows, to recognize that we want to keep America a competitive market, that's in the interest of our economic security. We also need to take our national security interest into account. But I hope that we do so in a way that it continues to make America a desired jurisdiction to do this, rather than pushing this activity, which is very jurisdictionally movable. We'd rather do it here than push it to another market where we would have much less control and visibility on it.
So I would agree with your comment, and stable coins that are stable, tied to the U.S. dollar that are stable, I think would be an important component of preserving a global reserve currency.
Yeah, I think that we should work together to make certain that our vital concerns, our vital national security concerns are addressed as we try to make this market the leader. And I think we have every potential to do so. We have great innovators here, but I've had some very disturbing conversations with those in the industry about trying to decide which jurisdiction is going to be best. And I think that the work that you're undertaking to provide clarity, again, incorporating states' perspectives, we can do that, we can take the lead, but I also would underscore that time is of the essence here, because these markets are highly competitive, yes, and a tremendous amount of capital is moving around the globe right now, trying to search for a reason there. I'd like to turn my ability for just a minute, my last question, regarding the FSOC's ability to address designating financial market utilities is systemically important under Title VIII of the Dodd-Frank Act. If you were to take this market and address the utilities here as systematically important, the stablecoin market is much smaller than many of the systemically important financial market utilities. How would you go about making this determination, and would this be the first time that such a designation has been made under Title VIII?
Yes. The short answer to your question about Title VIII for this would be yes, under the payment clearing settlement.
It would be the first.
FSOC, yeah. The council has a responsibility to look for and identify risks to financial stability. It's been focused on digital assets more broadly and looking, for example, especially at whether the extent to which leverage may be raising the value of the prices of crypto assets. On stablecoin, I think it's a little early to prejudge how they could use their authorities. They certainly have a responsibility to think about how to use their authorities, but it is new, and it would depend on the facts and circumstances of the case.
We're running out of time, but I would just encourage you to keep in close contact with us because, again, I want to maintain a competitive market here rather than put such a heavy-handed regulatory perspective on this that we're going to shove this to another jurisdiction. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator. Senator